He really didn't like being forced to wait. But sometimes, there was nothing else to do. Stepping outside the security room, Chase took out his cell phone and dialed Roland. At this moment, Chuck finally appeared. Where the hell had he been? Chuck walked over to Chase, who was standing in the security room's open doorway. He quickly asked, "Mr. Rothman, looks like we had the same idea. Did you see the surveillance footage?" Chase shook his head and said, "No, where have you been?" "I was making sure Miles or any of Dennis's goons didn't follow us. I had to park a couple of blocks away," Chuck explained. He looked at the security room and said, "Why haven't they let you in? Hey, man, don't you know the guy's daughter's missing?" The guard in the room was annoyed when he saw Chuck pressuring him. "I can't let you in without authorization. I'm sorry, these are the rules." Chuck came from a military background. He was someone who always completed the mission. To him, the Rothmans were his responsibility. They were his mission, and he would stop at nothing to serve them. So it could be said that Chuck took Chase's case more seriously than Chase did himself. What had happened to Celia before was unacceptable, and what was happening now was part of making up for that. Seeing that the security guard didn't budge at all, brute force crossed Chuck's mind. In the early years when he was just out of the army, he would have simply knocked the guy out. He looked at the security guard and put on a quizzical look. "Hey man, you look a little familiar. Were you in Baghdad in 2008? Chuck had been in Iraq, but he knew he'd never seen this man. This time, the guard smiled. "No, I didn't deploy until 2011. Did you serve?" He pulled up his sleeve to show an army tattoo with pride. "I thought you had that look," Chuck beamed. "I did 3 tours. Hurt my back parachuting, so I got out and went into the bodyguard business." The guard looked at him and chuckled. "I bet you got some stories. I've only deployed once." Chuck was very pleased when the man had taken the bait. He had an eye for telling military men. The "where'd you serve" script usually worked. "You must have been in Afghanistan then. What province?" The security guard immediately took out his phone and started scrolling through pictures. "I was in the Helmand province. Listen, I know a guy who served in Baghdad. I want to see if you recognize him." Chase thought that the two men would never stop talking, but he still needed to find his daughter. Chuck gave him a sidelong smile and made a 1-minute gesture. Chase was very impressed. Just a few hours ago, he'd seen Chuck beat up 5 guys in under a minute. Now he was charming a man Chase thought for sure he might have to fight too. Tim really knew how to pick good security. However, looking at the wall of security camera screens, he just felt impatient. Chuck gave the guard's arm a friendly slap. "Buddy, I wish I could swap stories all night, but I gotta help my client find his missing daughter." The guard frowned, signed, and waved them to the security room's computer. Whatever, you could take a quick look. But I never saw you do it, okay?" Chuck smiled. "Thanks, man." He was obviously very familiar with this type of surveillance camera, so when he sat down, he quickly found the correct files. Chase spotted the department's 3rd-floor monitor on the screen and had Chuck check the footage from an hour and a half ago. Just as he remembered, the camera was directly facing the door to the room, and could even see a small portion inside. An hour and a half ago, Dottie had been lying asleep in the hospital bed. Chase's daughter was alone in the ward, unattended. Seeing this, Chase felt his suspicion return. "Where are your wife and the other guards?" he asked Chuck. "I sent Eliza and one of them home," he answered. "I have no idea where the other guy is or why he isn't at his post." Chase made Chuck speed up the recording, and the two of them were watching Dottie wake up. The girl looked around and looked scared when she realized she was alone. After sitting for a while, she jumped off the bed and ran out of the room. "She's gone," Chase snapped. "I've got this," Chuck said. Since every corridor in the hospital was monitored, it was possible to track her by watching the other cameras. He changed the camera feed and adjusted the time to find out where the girl went. 3rd floor corridor, 3rd floor staircase, 2nd floor staircase. They followed the trail to the side exit of the 1st floor. The door opened into the parking lot. The little girl walked outside and looked around. In the last moments of the footage, Chase and Chuck saw a woman in red approach Dottie, then take her hand and let her away. They walked out of the frame. Chuck tried to search for more cameras, but there weren't many outside. Damn. We lost her. Disappointed, Chase told him to rewind to the woman in red and zoom the picture to the maximum. On the screen, the woman was dressed in red, her hair tied up. She appeared to be in her late 30s, maybe early 40s. However, the camera's resolution wasn't very good. Chase could only make out a rough outline of the figure and the clothes she was wearing. After locking on to the target, Chuck asked, "Mr. Rothman, do you know this person?" Chase shook his head slightly. He couldn't think of anyone who looked like that. He wished he could see her face clearer. However, with a suspect identified, there was now a lead to follow up on. Chase quickly said, "Chuck, make a copy of this video and send it to Tim. Tell him to search the city for this woman in red, and send it to the police too." "Yes, sir," he answered quickly. "I'll ask the other guys," the now friendly security guard said. "Maybe somebody recognizes her." "Thanks, man. I owe you one," Chuck said as he sent out the footage. The work in the security room was almost done. The two of them turned to leave the room. However, just as they were about to go, the door flew open. There were 5 or 6 security guards wearing the hospital uniform, surrounding the open space outside the room. The friendly security guard looked immediately guilty. "Uh-oh." Pointing at Chase, he said, "It's him, Captain. It's the guy who lost his daughter. He wanted to review the security footage. We found a suspect. I thought it would be okay." There was an older man, still tall and sturdy, that stood out compared to the younger security guards. He must have been the captain that the man was talking about. He crossed his arms, glanced at Chase and Chuck, and said in a low voice, "Do you realize you just broke the law?" Hearing that, Chase frowned. Chuck stepped forward and said, "Leave this to me, Mr. Rothman. You go find your daughter." "Got it." Chase stepped toward the door, Dottie and her plight in mind. However, a burly security guard stepped forward and stopped in front of him. "You want to leave after what you've done? We're going to have a chat."
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.